Today's lesson is about day 8, expressions and formulas. The learning target says I can substitute given values into a formula and solve. So let's take a look at what that means. A formula is an equation in which one variable is given in terms of other variables or numbers. For example, the area of a rectangle is found by calculating the length times the width. So A equals L times W. That's an example of a formula. It's all letters. Sometimes there are numbers involved if there's some kind of conversion factor, but typically there's a lot more variables than just X. Here are some steps to solving with variables. Make sure you have these written down in your notes. Number 1, write down any formula you see in the story problem. Step 2, identify what each variable means. So for example, L equals length. Step 3, identify the value of the variables, and that's just given from the story problem. So if they say the length is 3, you would write L equals length equals 3. Step 4, replace the variables with numbers, and step 5, solve using train tracks. So the only new part here really is interpreting what is being given in the story problem and plugging it into the formula first. The train track part is something you're very familiar with, and that should be easy at that point. So here's an example. The formula P equals 0.39 plus 0.24 times n minus 1 is used to find P, the postage cost, and N is the weight in ounces of the mail. If you paid $1.35 for a package, how many ounces did it weigh? So we're going to follow the steps. Step 1 was to write down the formula, and that was just given to us in the problem. Step 2 was to identify all the variables and what they represent and the values for each. So P, it says, is the postage cost. So that's what I'm going to write here. P equals postage cost. N is the weight in ounces of the mail. So N equals ounces. And now the last sentence says, if you paid $1.35 for a package, well, that's the value of P. So P equals postage equals $1.35. And then N we don't know. We're going to leave that as N in the variable or in the equation because it says how many ounces did it weigh. We don't know that part. So this is what it looks like when you plug everything in. This is step 3. $1.35 equals 0.39 plus 0.24 times n minus 1. So everything is the same except instead of P, we put in the value of P, which is $1.35. Now we're going to go ahead and do train tracks. So we're going to start by distributing. 0.24 times n is 0.24n. 0.24 times negative 1 is negative 0.24. Now here we're combining like terms. So 0.39 plus negative 0.24 is 0.15. Now we're going to go ahead and do SADMAP. So you're going to subtract 0.15 first from both sides and then divide by 0.24. So n equals 5. That means, to answer our question, how many ounces did it weigh? The package weighed 5 ounces. This is the type of work you need to show on your homework today. You're going to go through and write down all the variables, plug everything in, and then do your train tracks. So I should see this on every single problem that you do today. Here's another example. The formula D equals 1.5 times S plus S squared divided by 20 is used to determine the approximate distance it takes a car to stop when traveling on a wet road. D represents the distance in feet and S represents speed. If a car is traveling at 15 miles per hour on a wet road, find its stopping distance. So we're going to start by writing the formula, which is right here first, and then we're going to do each variable. So D equals distance and S equals speed. Notice there are 2 places where we get to plug in S. Okay, the speed they tell us is 15 miles per hour, so S equals 15, but we don't know the distance. It says find its stopping distance, so that's the question mark. So when we plug everything into the equation, we still don't know D, but we know S is 15, so we're going to put 15 in for S, and for s squared. And now, since the d is already by itself, we aren't really doing train tracks. So we're not really following SADMAP because the d is by itself. So we are just going to do PEMDAS. So I'm going to do the parentheses first. Within the parentheses, there's an exponent. So 15 squared is 225. Then I'm going to add those two together because they're still in parentheses, and that's 240. So now I have 1.5 touching this 240, and when there's no symbol there, remember that means multiply. So 1.5 times 240 is 360, and then I can finally divide by 20, which would give me 18. So now to answer the question, if it says find the stopping distance would be 18 feet.